Want to publicly recognize Rob for his efforts to improve our video and audio quality for the public. This is a big improvement. It seems minor, but probably if you were watching it on our website, it might not have been as glorious as it is right now. So Rob, thank you for your efforts to do that. I'd like to call the meeting to order for our March Land Bank Board of Directors meeting. Thank you for everybody for being here. Thank you to our auditors from Drescher and Malecki. Thank you guys for being here. We're looking forward to hearing from you in a little bit. But we will start by pointing out that minutes have been circulated. Rich, you could just note that he is here, Rob. And I would point the board in the direction of the minutes which have been circulated and ask that if anybody has any suggestions for corrections or changes, that they suggest them now. If there are none, then I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as proposed by the staff. So moved. Mike, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Tom, thank you. Any further discussion on the February minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted. Thank you. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have our auditors here today to talk to us. We heard from them, the Finance Committee heard from them a little bit earlier. Looking forward for the full board to hear that. I know there's been a lot of activity over the past month. So looking forward to hearing that from the executive director and the assistant director. On that note, I don't think there's anything else that I'm needing to say under chairman's remarks. So I will happily turn it over to Jess and ask for her monthly report.
Do you mind if we rework the agenda to allow
Yes,
Drescher to go
yeah.
first?
Thank you. I think that's an outstanding idea. They have things to do. Not that this isn't, I'm sure,
They would love
they would love to be here for your
talk about
report,
it, yeah.
to hear all about it. But I think you're right. If the board would consent to that, I'd love to move the auditors up on the agenda so that they can give us our presentation, and then we can move on to the rest of the regular business. Is there any opposition to that from the board? Then we will do that. Before we start, Jess, is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, so the Finance Committee is where Rob and I made just a few language or narrative suggestions to Drescher and Malecki. So they're going to take those into consideration. But overall, the auditing process this year was really smooth. It was great. It was really great working with them. So I would just say, the Finance Committee heard the all the details as it relates to the financial statements. So Drescher could feel free to consolidate it if you want, or both. Every single board member has the report that Nick sent earlier. So whatever you folks feel is most prudent for this time. So.
Charles and Nick, thank you for being here. The floor is yours. We appreciate all the work you've done with us. And I believe that your relationship with the staff here, I don't know where to look. That's the only problem. I'll look at the owl. I'm told that the relationship between our staff and your organization has been a productive one. And I'm sure you'll echo that too. I know that Jess and Rob have both mentioned that you folks have been good to work with as far as that goes and providing the information that is needed. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you two, and we can hear from you on our annual audit.
All right. Well, thank you. And thanks for moving us, although we do like to sit through these meetings and listen to what all the positive things that come out. But yes, just like Jess mentioned, the financial statements have some little bit of changes that your crew, your management, Jess and Rob, has identified. So what's going to happen is once we're done with our quality control, we'll make your changes. We'll make some changes that we identified. None of which are affecting the numbers that we talked about with the Finance Committee. But we'll send it back to you for review, and then whether it's any board member here or more changes from Jess and Rob, we're more than happy to change them again. So you'll have another chance to review the whole package once it's all said and done, likely by the end of the week. So we'll be ready for March 31st. I went through the Finance Committee a few minutes ago, but I'll let Nick go through the full board, and we're happy to fill any questions at the end.
Wait, one minute.
One question, in the, report that we had, they said they hadn't done an internal review of the audit. Have they done that since we?
Charles, did you hear that question?
Have we
in the
done an
audit
internal
that-
review?
That we received, it said, they said that they had not done an internal review of the audit. And that they were still working on it and were going to come back to us. I'm assuming that they have done that since then. Since we had the report.
Are we talking about the audit report?
Yeah.
Is
Does
there
that
a
make
page?
sense?
Is there a page that we highlight that we haven't done it? Basically, we've done all our audit work. We're ready.
I think he's referring to the concurring review.
Oh, the concurrent review.
Yeah, the concurring partner
Yeah,
review.
page 23 maybe, is that what you're talking about? Our order was not designed for the purpose of expressing an opinion on effectiveness and internal control over compliance.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Accordingly, no such opinion has been expressed. Is that the section that you mean?
I thought you were talking, he said internally in their firm, they have another.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so to make the full board aware, and that's what Nick was going to. What we mentioned at the full committee or the finance committee meeting is our process, the way we are peer reviewed, the way we are audited, the way we audit others is that we have external people in the country that come in, make sure that we follow a certain quality control review process. Quality control review process isn't just me signing off that the audit and the report is good and ready to go. It's also having a separate partner in our firm that's not engaged with Broome County Land Bank, that knows nothing about Broome County Land Bank, that puts his set of eyes or her set of eyes on this financial statement to make sure it has everything that it needs to have to comply with all the standards that are out there to make it even better. So that review is currently that review is currently happening this week. So again, by the end of next week, or by the end of this week or early next week, we'll be in a position to issue everything. So yes, thanks for the clarification there.
Okay. Well, I guess like as mentioned before, I'll kind of run through the slides this time. I won't share my screen if everyone has a copy. But as we're required to do so, we go through a pretty detailed version with the finance committee. So this will be a little bit more of a condensed version of the slides and what we're required to communicate. But to summarize, the products of our audit, we will issue basic financial statements, which are owned by the land bank. We have 3 separate opinions in there, which are the only things that we as Drescher Mielecki own in the financial statement report. There will be 3 clean audit opinions issued that would cover your numbers in the financial statements, your internal controls, and then an additional opinion this year over your compliance with the federal government as it pertains to the ARPA single audit that was performed. So overall, a very clean, that's the best you can do from an audit standpoint. And that's what we plan to move forward with before we issue next week. As part of our audit communications, again, I'll keep this brief as we went into more detail with the audit committee or the finance committee. However, we're hired to perform an audit and give an opinion on if the financial statements are fairly stated. And as I mentioned before, we plan to issue a clean opinion going forward. There were no significant changes to any major accounting policies from the prior year. And then any significant accounting estimates that the land bank does accrue within the financial statements, we are required to evaluate those for reasonableness every single year. And the major estimate on the books would be your assets held for sale. And there were no major changes to that this year, and that number appears to be reasonable from our perspective. I'd also like to report we are independent of the land bank, so we show no bias when performing this audit. And then as Jess mentioned and Charles, we received full cooperation. It was a very smooth audit, and everything was very organized and ran very well. So we do thank you very much for that. A quick couple of financial statement highlights. Total cash on hand is about 1.5 million as of December 31st, 2024. Of that 1.5, about 5 million is restricted, and that's directly related to your ARPA funds. So if you look down onto the liability side, that matches your unearned revenues. So that's basically ARPA grant money that has been received, however, has not been spent. So it's required to be reported as an unearned revenue. And then once that money is spent, the unearned revenue will be diminished, and then you will actually record revenue for those funds. So the other thing to note would be your assets held for sale. That jumped up by almost $1 million from the prior year. You know, with the increased activity, with all the new grant money coming in and the new projects, that was to be expected. But that will also coincide with your property sales and then any cost of sales as well, as we'll go on in later slides. So when we jump to the revenue slide, as you can see, that green portion there, that jumped up quite a bit from the prior year. So you have about 2.5 million in grant income that come in various sources, whether it's the land bank initiative, the ARPA money, CDBG money, but that dramatically increased from the prior year. As you can see, you know, property sales also doubled from the prior year. So that red portion there is about 430,000, and that's up from 2023, in which you reported about 218,000 in property sales. That's to be expected with the increased projects and activity that's happening. But as you can see, quite a jump from the prior years as far as a revenue standpoint, as far as we're concerned. Then we'll jump ahead to the expense side of things. Again, this kind of mirrors the revenue side, but we had quite an uptick in the cost of sales, which more than doubled from the prior year. Overall, the administrative costs also increased. You know, that's attributed to handling these grants and making sure you're in compliance with what you need to be in compliance with. So all sorts of administrative costs associated with these grants and the increased project activity are jumping up the expense side of things. Overall, on the financial statements, we'll show probably a net loss of about 830,000 on property sales. Again, that's quite a jump from the prior year, but that's to be expected with the new projects and the new things that the land bank is exploring. So overall, from a net position standpoint, again, we jumped up in 2022. You're at about 1.1 million. 2023 was about 1.5 million, and now in 2024, the ending net position is almost 3 million. Again, that's attributed to significant grant revenues coming in, and that money's being held until it's spent by the land bank for these various improvement projects. So as Charles mentioned before, right now we're at a very strong fiscal position, and that's really the biggest financial statement highlights that we can report on for now. As far as the audit is concerned, and our contact information is listed here on the slides, like we are available year-round for any questions or comments on the report. From an audit standpoint, we are substantially finished with our testing and field work, and we are working through our quality control reviews as we speak. So we anticipate by the end of this week or early next week, we should be in a position to move forward and finalize this report. If there's any other questions at this time, please feel free to jump in. Otherwise, like I said, we're available year-round.
Thank you, Nick. Charles, questions from the board? Comments from the board about the audit?
So the assets for sale, our biggest one has to be 749 West Main Street.
Probably because of the acquisition expense. Mhm.
So did we pick up the restaurant before the end of the year, or was that after?
Just after the meeting.
Just after.
We
So that's
tried,
not even reflected.
right. We tried to close by the end of the year. It didn't happen.
Tried to do it because of this single audit.
Right.
I would have preferred that expense to be in
Yeah.
24.
Because we had to do a single audit anyway.
Yeah, we had to do it
Yeah.
anyways, but we just couldn't get it done. So it was like, what was it, January 11th or something, like January 11th or January 12th, something like that, I think is when we closed.
That's all. That's the biggest number that sticks out.
Yeah.
And I think we're currently holding quite a few properties,
Yes.
right, that are in various states of renovation.
Yes.
as was pointed out by the auditors, there's a bunch of money that's we've requested drawn down, but haven't paid all out yet because of the projects that are various states of
Mhm.
completion.
Yep.
Probably largely the city ARPA
ARPA,
funds.
yeah, ARPA
Maybe
projects.
some CDBG, but probably largely the city ARPA
Yeah.
funds, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Any other comments or questions for the auditors? All right, if not, an entertain a motion to accept the report, auditor's report as prepared by Drescher and Malecki. Do we have a motion? Rich, thank you. A second. Mike, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's accepted. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, back to the rest of our business.
I can leave it on.
No, we don't.
Camera's still
I
on.
think we're fine. I think we're fine. It's a distraction. Good. All right, so good idea to put them up first on the agenda. Thanks, Jess. I'd forgotten about that. Let's move on now to the executive director's report, if you could.
Under our city, ARPA and Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 Rehabilitation Project updates, Land Bank currently has 8 properties included in our program. We're waiting on a closing date for the sale of 34 Andrews Ave. So far, the closing process has gone smoothly. There's been no issues. We anticipate that should be closing within the next few weeks. Tioga General Contracting has received a certificate of occupancy for 33 Elm Street. There are a small number of minor punch list items on the project, and we need to finalize a few credits back to the organization and close out the project. We will look to list it for sale, hopefully sometime in April or May. Malarkey Construction is continuing their work at both 8 Gray Street and 170 Muller Street. Both projects are going very smoothly. 8 Gray Street is slated to be completed by the end of the month, and we'll most likely list that property after Elm Street. Clearview Door and Window has been provided their building permit for 14 McNamara Ave, and the work is well underway. Everything is going very well. The land bank closed on the acquisition of 181 Holly Street from the city. We've issued notices to proceed for environmental testing and abatement, subsequent abatement on the site. Soon after that project will issue, or soon after those steps, pre-development steps, we'll issue RFPs for the redevelopment of both 181 Holly Street and 21 Walnut Street. As a reminder to the board, the plan would be to offer a development incentive similar to 3 King Avenue for each project, as well as allow the respondent to apply for BRP funds to assist with the project so long as they meet all the eligibility criteria and the prioritization criteria of the program. The purchase of 27 Columbia Avenue from the Broome County for our ARPA program will be going before the county legislature on Thursday this week. We should be able to close on the acquisition hopefully by the end of the month or early next month. Thank you to Wendy for her support in identifying the property, as well as the county executive and the legislature for their consideration. After the acquisition of Columbia Ave, we have and will be renovating 7 single-family homes and 2 family homes to be renovated. As a reminder, our agreement with the city calls for a total of 10 to 12 single and or 2 family homes to be renovated. So this puts us right at the cusp of that requirement. To help us meet that goal, there is a resolution before the board today to authorize the purchase or acquisition of 5 Tremont Ave on the south side. This would put the total for rehab at 8 single families and 2 families, meeting the minimum of 10 rehabilitation projects. But the land bank is always looking for more projects and will continue to work with the county administration, legislature, real property tax service, the city, to identify properties for not only our ARPA program, but all the land bank's programs countywide.
I anticipate that we'll get to 12.
Yeah.
I know because we talked about the last meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Our county ARPA and Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 demolition projects.
Jess, I'm
Yep.
sorry, on that, just to follow up on the mayor's question.
Yeah.
There's like the 2 issues are like finding 12, right? Like through whatever machinations we have to go through to get that done.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cost to do those projects. You think on both those things, that's doable?
So long as we can identify the properties,
Yeah.
yes, because the funding's there.
Yeah.
The funding's available. So it's just a matter of identifying the properties. There are, like Tarek brought up, I think either at the last board meeting or the meeting before that, there's land banks that pursue acquisition in a variety of different ways. So those are things that we should consider.
Like we
and-
got one here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
It's less preferred to buy something from the private market, but it's something that we can do.
We may be forced to do,
yes.
given the state of where we
Yeah.
are in foreclosures, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yes, I would say so long as the properties can be identified, then yes, achieving 12 should not be problematic.
Yeah, I recognize the cost for rehabilitation has gone up significantly
Yeah.
since the city donated the properties or donated the
Funding,
funding.
yeah.
of the properties, several years ago.
Yeah.
But the city has a track record too of purchasing properties, targeted areas that have,
Yeah.
will end up providing a greater good for the community, in addition to providing affordable housing. Ideally, it's nice to get them for $1 or $1 plus.
Yes, yes.
As opposed to the market value, but it's certainly worth, pursuing.
Yeah.
If the funding's available.
Yeah, and there's other funding sources like home, there's land bank initiative, something I'll report on in a minute. More funding available, or more funding at least proposed, in the Senate One House bill, for land banks. So I think we're, moving forward with a whole bunch of, different types of funding sources that we pursue for all of our programs countywide.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, so our demo project updates, we begun environmental testing at the former Food Fusion restaurant. Our plan would be to abate the asbestos that's been identified, which is a small amount compared to how big the property is. And we'll do that in conjunction with a bid package to abate any friable asbestos at 181 Holly Street, 27 Columbia Ave, and hopefully 5 Tremont Ave. So all 4 of those properties, we can abate the asbestos all in one. It'd be a larger bid package, a little bit more competitive pricing that we can get. And then the demolition of the former Food Fusion restaurant can come down as a clean demo or with non-friable asbestos in place, which would hopefully fetch a lower, more reasonable bid. So that property would also be demolished with 61 Park Avenue and 26 Overland Drive in the city of Binghamton. Our land bank initiative operating funds, year 3 is well underway. It will expire in about 5 months, August of this year. We plan to submit a draw probably by the end of this month or early next. Just as a reminder, this is the final year of land bank initiative operating funds unless HCR renews the program, which we believe they will. As there was funding included in the 24-25 New York State budget under the aid to locality section. So it's just, we believe it just might be a matter of time. Land bank initiative fees to capital funds. We're continuing to move through the grant on our deliverables. We've spent nearly 93% of our award, which is over $79,000 left, which has been earmarked to assist with our current projects. We have submitted an application for additional funds. Our grant application totaled $2 million, which was the maximum a land bank could request for funding. The fund, if awarded, the funding would be used to support our rehabilitation and demo programs throughout the county. We'll be sure to notify the board if and when we hear anything from OCR. Our vacant rental program, as the board's aware, the land bank has awarded our full ask of a little over $1 million. The program is intended to assist private mom and pop style landlords with small grants to renovate vacant and uninhabitable units. IdeaCraft has hit the ground running on our marketing plan, and they provided us with some of the metrics on the ads so far, which is very positive. Rob has some metrics to report from both Ad Elements and IdeaCraft. Ad Elements is a subcontractor of IdeaCraft, and they're managing the social media aspect of the ads.
Yep. So as of right now, there have been over almost 69,000 impressions through our meta results, which has reached over 45,000 people. Our digital results have been over 485,000 impressions and around 250 clicks just on some of the advertising. As it relates to the VRIP page on the website, we've had nearly 1,300 views of that page, of which 892 are unique new users to view that page, which has also resulted in over 314 downloads of any of the application handbook, anything else that's downloadable on that page. And then just on the little side note, As of today, we have fielded well over 30 calls regarding the program. We have fielded about 25 or so emails regarding the program, and to date, we've received some combination of 6 applications. Jess and I have been reviewing them in order to determine their completeness. And we've had a follow-up with some additional requests for information, but in some form or fashion, we've already received at least 6 applications.
Questions, if I could. I know we talked previously about sort of a non-electronic communication with people, mail. Where do they stand? You know, there's some portion of people who may be interested, who may not be on X or Facebook or, you know, surfing around to our website. Where do they stand on sort of the traditional mail-based outreach? You know?
Those, yep, so those postcards should have been mailed either yesterday or
Good.
today. Lists were identified within the city and within the town.
Good.
To get some of those postcards out, so that those should have been mailed yesterday, but we'll confirm with IdeaCraft. I did talk to Ashley on Friday and she said either today or
Great.
either today, yesterday.
Second question, when do you, I know you guys reported to the board before, you're looking at like maybe like it's not a first come, first served basis. There's criteria that relate to how these are evaluated. And I think what was said, you'd bring them like every other month. I think that might be the frequency.
Yep.
So when you have 6, so are you anticipating, so this is March, April, or is 2 months really May?
It's May, so we're asking folks who are interested to submit their completed applications by April 15th for the first round.
Yep.
And then at that point, you know, Rob and I would, as we're receiving them, we're like reviewing them for completeness. We need all the supporting documentation. Folks are tending to complete the application, just send it in without any supporting documentation. So we need to get back to them and say, you're missing
A lot of work related to
everything,
this,
yeah, that's required for this program. So we'll shoot back to them and ask them for that stuff. So, and then at that point, if their application's considered complete and we've done our due diligence, for example, sent a lengthy email to Wendy today, asking about foreclosure history, asking about delinquency on tax bills, things of that nature to determine whether these property owners are considered responsible. So it's just a lot of information.
The municipalities.
To the
right, water
municipalities,
bills.
yeah, water bills. I have to send an email to the treasurer's office, code enforcement for any and all open code violations and open building permits, things of that nature, just to confirm everything that they're telling us in this application is true and correct. A side note, one of the applications we did receive, we're asking folks to disclose all of their LLC information. And you know, one of
Because
the
you need to
applications.
know if they really own 3 properties or
Absolutely.
300 properties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, the due diligence that Rob and I can do on our end is, you know, just do a search on GIS if they represent themselves as an LLC. So we did receive an application where, an individual did not, you know, disclose all the properties owned under a certain LLC. So that was my response back. You say that you don't own, any other properties, but Broome County GIS is telling us that you do.
Is
you
it
know,
outdated information?
Yeah,
Right,
well, yeah, you know, please verify,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
things of that nature. So, those are kind of the two, like the due diligence things that Rob and I need to do on our end to just make sure that these applications and the funding is going to be a strategic and good investment. So once we do that, then we'll engage our construction managers and go into the units to make sure that they're even feasible.
So you would anticipate, just trying to get a sense of what this looks like.
Yep.
When it comes here. So you would anticipate in May.
Yes.
Bringing an assessment, bringing applications that meet the requirements of different submission paperwork,
yep.
all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then some sort of like a rank's not the right word maybe, but a weighing against the criteria that exists. And so there'll be some sort of summary of each project with, you know, some bullet points about where they score kind of thing. And then the board would look at all that.
We're asking folks to similar to our small business tip fee program to appear before the board. Too.
Okay.
Because, you know, Rob and I can only answer so many questions. I mean, we're talking to these folks, we're communicating back and forth. We we're getting to know them and things like that, but I think it's important for them to come before the board if you have any particular questions that Rob and I can't answer.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that will be in May.
May 20th would
Okay.
be our proposed, like, first round of awards, and, as we're talking to we're asking them to be, patient with us, because it's such a new program that we kind of have to work through it and figure out how it works and, everything like that. So what I would anticipate in May would be, an initial award made to the property owner. And then in June, hopefully would be an agreement with the low bid for the project.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep, and we have a list of pre-qualified contractors already.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we do.
very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
If someone owned mobile homes, would that qualify?
Mobile homes are not eligible.
Interesting.
Was that listed?
In the program materials from the state, yes, manufactured housing, mobile homes are not eligible. But that being said,
In your pamphlet?
I need to add it. There's a handful of things that we need to add as we're moving forward. There's for example, we have OCR is allowing a waiver for property insurance for some of these property owners, because some properties can't be insured. So how do you go about getting a waiver for that? So we have to, I would want to add some language adjustments or language additions to the handbook as we move forward, to be a little bit more in line with what we're seeing as these applications are coming in.
It's a good point. So that's an update to do.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
no,
Thank you
you're
for those
fine.
questions or those answers.
So as Robin mentioned, we've been getting a handful of calls and emails. Do want to mention even former Mayor Matt Ryan has called and actually stopped by the office to help promote the program and connect us with some interested property owners in the city. So we're thankful for that. We are meeting with one of our construction managers tomorrow to review a few applications received. And discuss how we intend to undertake the construction side of the program, as that's really where her expertise lies, and that's where, she's going to be able to advise us appropriately on that. She works along with several programs that are similar to this. And then, we talked about the deadline for the first round is April 15th. Recommend a few applications to start for the board to consider at the May board meeting, and then so on and so forth as funds are exhausted.
Yep.
If any board members have any questions at any point, let us know. And as I said, we're still working through the completeness and the overall eligibility of the applications received.
Is the interest so far? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
When somebody's approved, did they get a check in full? Or it is parceled according to the work done, or how does that work?
So Land Bank's going to oversee the work at the site, similar to how we undertake our single family renovation projects. So a lot of these programs typically, like, home ownership repair programs, the homeowner is supposed to put forth or front the money, and then we would reimburse. In this instance, instead of doing that back and forth chasing around, the Land Bank's going to contract directly with the contractor and pay the contractor directly.
That's great, because it prevents we paid someone,
Yep.
they haven't yet paid the contractor, then the
Yes.
contractor's upset with us
Yep.
and them.
Yeah, and chasing the property owners for proof of payment and receipt of invoices and things like that. It's just, it may be a little bit more administrative
Your part
work
will be,
for Robin. But I think just for ease of the program, that might be the best path forward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you'll have whatever schedule you have, just like on our rehab projects where certain amount is paid at a certain time, right? So there's some sort of incentive on both ends to keep moving forward
Yes.
in a quick manner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
And is the interest so far coming from areas where you would expect that? Or is the
You know,
interest?
a bit more
Yeah,
about that.
I would say, if not all of it, all the calls and emails have generally been for properties in the city of Binghamton and the town.
Mhm.
Including in the town of Union.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Including both villages. I don't believe that I can recall anyone has expressed interest for a property outside of those two.
Maybe one thing could be helpful without, we
Yeah.
don't need 85 pages of documents, maybe just a simple email to the board that said, as of close of business today, tomorrow, this week, Friday, whenever it is, we've received X applications.
Yep.
10 applications, 4 in the city, 5 are in Union and 1
Yep.
is in Lyle, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yep.
is. That just informationally be interesting to know.
Yep.
And we recognize that they might not be complete, right, or they may not qualify, but just sort of overall,
Yep.
how many we've got, it would just be informative,
Okay.
you know? And maybe do it on just a somewhat regular basis, every couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just to know.
Yep.
Because I know you're doing various outreaches, you guys yourselves, but also our firms, and trying to get the word out. You know, to various entities. I know others here are doing it. Said the former mayor, when the former mayor
Yep.
stopped by, like, that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good thing. We want that kind of activity, so. Hopefully that'll help get the word out.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely do that. We considered doing it, but it's like they were like such an so incomplete.
I got it. I
But
understand.
we will shoot them.
Just put an
out.
asterisk that says,
Yes.
please note that this
Yes.
is not necessarily completed applications that necessarily qualify,
Yes.
just the
But
applications.
yes, here
we
it is.
received.
Here it is. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Our small business tipping fee waiver program, as the board knows, the board approved a project for the demolition of several properties in the Brandywine corridor. The property on Montgomery Street has been demolished. We're not sure when the properties on Fredericks or the buildings on Frederick Street will be demolished, but we've seen a handful of media excitement around these properties. Recently, the land bank was contacted by the media. We just let them know that this is it's a private project. The land bank's provided a $15,000 tipping fee waiver to assist with it, and we've advised the property owner to contact the media.
Yeah.
Because it's some significant news.
They told us that they were planning to start last month. They told us to start soon, like within 30 days.
Yeah.
Right, like
Yeah,
soon.
and they did.
Yeah.
They did, yeah. So I think things seem to be moving. So as a reminder, applications are capped at $15,000 each. Small businesses are defined as having 50 employees or less. HCR's block by block program. As a reminder to the board, I've shared HCR's block by block program term sheet. We've done our due diligence since then. I shared with the board the Mayor Cram's press release encouraging nonprofits to apply for block by block funding from HCR. We know of some other local organizations that may submit an application to HCR. But as expressed previously, based upon the 30 years off second enforcement note and mortgage required on the program, I'm still of the opinion that the land bank should not apply for the funding at this time due to the uncertainty of financing options for buyers in the program and potentially their future ability to draw equity from their home. And then on top of that, since we've gotten word that some other organizations are interested in applying for the funding, we have more than enough work. We don't want to step on toes of other local nonprofits that have the ability to do this work as well. I will say though, if HCR ever reconsiders the term of affordability requirement, I think, I would certainly be open to reconsidering an application and come back to the board if that's something that comes before us.
Yep.
Our fiscal year 2025 home buyer development funds. The round opened at the end of February. The total request amount would be $1 million for a maximum total of 4 units. We believe that a countywide foreclosure list may become available later this year, perhaps in the fall. That said, we will need to delay an application for home funding until properties become available in any way, shape, or form. As this program requires property identification at the time of application for HCR underwriting. Applications will be accepted and awards made on a rolling basis through October 31st, 2025, or until all funds are committed. My understanding from HCR is that this is a program that they'll want to continuously roll out and keep online. So even if we, for some reason, miss this round, I think there might be an opportunity to pursue a future round. Our administrative and housekeeping items, Director Malecki completed their audit. They presented to the finance committee and the full board. They've been wonderful to work with ever since last year and this year's process. There are a few budget amendments for consideration today, which were reviewed by the finance committee. On today's agenda, we have reappointments and new appointments to the Land Bank's Community Advisory Panel. We notified the Personnel Committee last week about these, and everything's in order for them to be considered today by the full board. We recently issued new term contract RFPs and RFQs for both architecture and engineering services and environmental testing services. Responses for both of solicitations are due in mid-April, and we have received interest from several firms. Both of the contracts that we have right now expire in late May and early June and have no more remaining optional renewal terms. Our NPA intern, Brian Goodman, is here with us today. He's doing an outstanding job so far. He's about halfway through his internship. We believe he's learning a lot, and he's really been a true asset to the office so far.
Great. Okay, I know we're gonna talk about financials later. Is there questions for Jess on her report or comments?
I just want to thank you, the board, for engaging in the conversation around the BRIP grants. I really do appreciate it. I felt there was a fatal design flaw. It's not ideal, but I'm a pain in the ass, so ideal is hard to get. I know that, but I really appreciate it, because if we just look at some of these numbers, if scoring and the criteria was a smart way to work out a compromise, so thank you. But if a landlord does agree to that, somebody making 80% would be paying $400 less if they're family of three.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
For residents in the households we're trying to serve, 60% they'll be paying $300 less. So I think that could make a big impact. I probably should have asked, what are people submitting in their application?
Can't wait to hear that. I can't wait to hear that.
I will
That doesn't
say,
preclude me
yeah.
from saying thank you.
okay, yeah, thank you. I will say we may need to make an adjustment to that rental limit attestation because it's confusing folks. They're filling out both of them. And then when we ask for clarification, I clarify, here's the option one, this is what you can do under the program. Here's option two, what the land bank's recommending.
More likely to get
This
approved.
will get you 15 extra points. I will say everyone is selecting that one.
It's interesting.
Awesome.
So, it's an encouragement. Some of the folks that we have talked to, have said, even with the rents that we're suggesting, I don't know, this is what they're saying. They said they don't even believe that the market would support that and that they would have to go even lower.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how accurate that is, but at least it would earn them an extra 15 points, and that's what folks are opting for.
I'll echo what Tarek said too. I thought that was a really creative solution from you and Rob. I don't think the rest of us even thought about it that way. Maybe Tarek had, but I thought that was very creative. Number one, just to echo what he said. Number two, it is real dollars, right? All these things sort of require various pushing and pulling and compromise and things like that. I think this accomplished that. And I think that you bring it up, right? It's something we all agree that that's not realistic. The state can propose what they want. It's not a criticism of it, but it wasn't realistic for our market. So I thought that discussion was really helpful and led to this sort of creative way to go forward. I think it's hopefully gonna be even more successful because of that. And it was interesting that it appeared that we're the only ones who have done anything like this. Now, that doesn't prohibit, I guess, a new entry into the program from doing that too. But I thought it was interesting that our discussion led to that becoming a thing that we did, whereas the rest of the entities decided not to do that. Now, maybe they were already advancing the program and couldn't change it at that point, but it was interesting what they chose. And we're a little bit maybe of a different organization than some of the others who were doing this program. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah.
But I thought it was sort of fascinating that we were the only ones that had exercised that ability to weigh that, whereas others have not. So.
Not that I know of today. I will say that HCR has used our option as an example to show the other entities. Did not name us in the webinar. Dan was like, they're here, but I guess I won't call them out directly,
I'm not sure if
but
we made the final decision at that point, right?
no, we hadn't made the absolute final decision, but it's what I proposed, and I was hoping, hoping
Yeah.
that the board would be, HCR approved it, and I was hoping that the board would be okay with it, and, Dan at HCR said it was a very, what's the word that he used, like out of the box, thought process for how to achieve it, as opposed to making it very, stringent. At least he liked the fact that it allowed the property owners to select one or the other. Mhm.
Good.
So-
It was you talking to the two of them, the two representatives, to Dan and his colleague. can't remember, Rebecca,
Yeah.
at the announcement. I thought that was
Yeah.
nice that they were here.
Yeah.
And a good chance to thank them for the program
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
creative. And I think the mayor did the same at that point, thank them for the creative program that allowed us to do something sort of with private landlords. It's sort of, I know you mentioned there's maybe some other similar programs, but for us, it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good work on the announcement too.
And the math really works.
Mhm.
With the formula. When you look at it and you say $300 or $400, and you allow a landlord to say, this is how I'm gonna finance it.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I mean, to your point, with the numbers that the state were giving us, it almost doesn't seem like that big of a give from the local landlord standpoint, in that the market is probably not, what was the number from the state, like on a.
It's in the.
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
sorry
to
to
look.
do that.
No, it's
But,
fine.
I mean, it's a very
like-
high
I
number
might be able to
that
look
did
it up.
not seem,
1,500.
yeah, which
Yeah, like a 2-bedroom, like 16,
Two-bedroom.
like $1,600.
not seem like the mark, I don't know, I haven't rented someplace in a long time around here, but it seemed like that was not
Yeah,
realistic.
Yeah.
So giving a few $100s may not be that much of a gift, right? And to your point, maybe they'll even assess more carefully and say, look, this needs to be realistic for us too, so maybe.
that's what they're saying. I don't, folks will
Yeah.
say whatever. But I mean, that is what they're saying. So it's like, okay, I mean, that's okay. If you don't even think you can get what the land bank's suggestion is, then
Yeah.
select that, because you'll earn yourself an extra 15 points.
Thank you, Tarek, and to the rest of the board for bringing that topic
Yeah.
up. And the folks who came, I hope they know that we appreciate their feedback, and I hope they recognize that we try to compromise and find a way forward. This meets some of the objectives. I haven't talked to them, but I hope they realize that this is staffed in the right direction.
They were pleased that it made an impact. Yeah, so thank you. Just quick question. So if somebody wanted to pay, if the cost was more than 50,000.
Yep.
Given your approach, so that line in there that they need financing, but it's only for the overage.
Correct. Yes. Yep. So if it's like, if our construction manager, she's gonna give us a rough estimate. And that's not considering environmentals. We're gonna need to handle environmentals and things like that. So if the bid comes in over $50,000, we would then suggest that they take the $75,000 option, but they don't have to do that. What they would have to do is, if they want to stick with the 50,000, then they would have to show us that they have the line of credit.
Yep. Good, I'm excited. I can't wait to see the responses.
Yeah,
I've heard anecdotally,
Mhm.
right now, just from others, that there is interest.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see that.
Yep.
Good. Thank you, Jess.
Yep.
Other comments or questions related to the executive director's report? Okay, thank you, Jess. Thank you, Rob. Let's move on to public community advisory panel comments. This is a little bit later on the agenda than normal. This is due to the auditors. On some discussion about the executive director's report. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board for a period of not more than 5 minutes related to land bank related topics? Okay. We're good. So we're gonna now declare that portion of the meeting closed. Let's move on to new business. We've already handled the independent auditor presentation. I think Director Malecki do a great job. I think I speak for you guys too, right? You've told me
Wonderful.
offline that they're good to work with. When is, we have a couple more years in that contract still? We just re-upped it, right?
we have one more. So they'll audit our 2025 books, and then that'll be it. We have to
Then we'll
move on.
re-RFP. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. All right, so let's move on to proposed amendments to the 2025 budget. I believe this has been discussed and vetted with the finance committee prior to this. But would you like to brief, you or Rob like to brief the board on it?
Yes, so what we're asking for amendments is, to amend the budget accordingly to spend down the remainder of our land bank initiative phase 2 award grant number 1, which is, about $250,000. Spend that down in 2025. As reported in the executive director's report, we have about $79,000 left. So what we're budgeting the remainder as it was calculated on January 1. So that's what we would have to spend down for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And then we're budgeting $460,000 of HCR's vacant rental program funding for the year 2025, which is largely, the first several projects, and our professional service contract with Ideacraft for $20,000 marketing.
Yep.
And then just a few other adjustments, on the capital budget.
Mhm.
That's
Is
all
there
we
a change we need to make here, or is it already reflected in the board packet? You had a change with the
got.
finance?
With finance, yes. So I made adjustment in finance for acquisition.
Is that already on this one?
No.
Okay, are we on
So-
page 56?
Yeah, page 56, so this number right here.
Okay, at
I
the
would-
bottom, 130,511 is highlighted. Yep.
That up and add that to LBI phase 2 and calculate that at $160,511.
Okay, so if you want to adjust your copy from 135.11 to 165.11, that change has already been discussed and approved through the finance committee, Mr. Sopcich, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Is there any questions about the proposed budget amendments? And this has been vetted, as we said. Mr. Sopcich, do you have a motion related to this budget change?
Yes.
Yes.
It went through the finance committee and we approved it and we recommended that the board approve.
Thank you. On motion from Mr. Sopcich, do we have a second on the motion to accept the budget amendments? Second. Thank you, Rich, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of the budget amendments as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Thank you. Community Advisory Panel reappointments. Is that you or is that Rob?
I can do it.
Okay.
So every 2 years, we have to reappoint or appoint new members to our community advisory panel. Our reappointments that we're suggesting, or folks that want to be reappointed are Joe Moody from the town of Union, Nick Pappas from the town of Binghamton, Ebony Hutto from Gilead Media and Marketing, Jerry Willard, First Ward Action Council, and Marianne Callahan, part of First Ward Neighborhood Watch. The new appointments that we are suggesting is Madeline Chantillo from the city of Binghamton. She works in the mayor's office. This appointment would be to replace a former staff member of the mayor's office, Grace Doherty. Mayor Ron Harding from the village of Windsor, replacing Supervisor Mike Marinaccio from the town of Dickinson. Jessica Dillenbeck from Jessica Dillenbeck Real Estate, replacing Marion Irwin from Howard Hanna Real Estate, and then Brandy Jackson, Director of Operations from the SEP Group, replacing Sue Brown, a board member from SEP. All of those new appointments are made of folks that did not want to be reappointed, or in the place of Miss Doherty just does not work for the city anymore. I discussed with the Personnel and Governance Committee, specifically with Chairman Agostini. And I guess I would just turn it over to you if you have any comments or anything you want to
No,
say to the board.
great replacements and appreciate the former members.
Okay, so these are recommended by you as personnel committee chair.
Yes.
Or the yeah. Okay.
I do
In
have,
committee, yes.
I do have, resumes, for Maddie and for Brandy, if any of the board members, want them, as for, the mayor, Ron Harding, he's the mayor.
Yeah.
And then Jessica Dillenbeck, just a little background on her. Rob and I are in several different kind of subcommittees, with her as it relates to the chamber and IDA type of things. So we're in the same kind of circle, and she's really hard worker, in the real estate world. And we wanted to suggest somebody from a firm other than Exit Realty that we work
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We already have a business relationship, but it makes sense to have someone non-affiliated. Yeah, okay. Any questions, comments about these appointments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the community advisory panel reappointments and new appointments, reappointments and new appointments, both, right? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Tom, thank you. Do we have a second? Kyle? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The highlight of our meeting, item number 9, we
Yes.
have an item to approve correction of the 2025 land bank dues. It's going down significantly.
Going up.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
That's
Clerical error from our last board meeting. We asked for approval from the board to expend up to $1,500 on our New York Land Bank Association membership and dues for 2025. It's actually 2,000. Just an item of note, we did budget 2,500 last budget season, so we're within the budget, and we have since amended said budget accordingly, so I'm asking for $2,000 instead of 1,500.
This is associated by the activity that we have, right? Like X amount of dollars of activity, your dues is X amount, Y.
It's based upon our budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, any questions about that? Not entertain a motion to correct the 2025 New York Land Bank Association dues from $1,500 to $2,000. We have a motion. Mike, thank you. A second, Tom, is that a question or a second? Second, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Assuming we may have one abstention, possibly, Tarek. You want to abstain on that again?
Yes, please.
Okay, please record that
Yep.
as so. Any opposed? That carries. All right, an executive session to discuss the acquisition of real property. Do we need an executive session today?
We talked about this in executive session, last month. I don't feel need unless any other board members want to, and we fully discussed this. So what's coming before you is just a formality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, this is the bridge to the purchase
Of
of
5
Tremont.
Tremont.
Yeah, we did discuss that last month.
Yes.
And the details are, I mean, the public details,
Yep.
it's here all before the public and the board.
Mhm.
Does anyone feel a need to go into executive session to discuss any further matters related to the acquisition of real property? And we're gonna dispense with that. Let's go right to number 11. If we could, Jess, or Rob, when it was appropriate, please brief the board.
So as the board's aware, last month, we went and took a look at 5 Tremont Ave when it was listed by Saul Real Estate as part of a handful of former Isaac Anzarut properties that were in receivership. So we went to go take a look at it. It's a single family home in a decent area of the city. We considered it could be potentially part of our ARPA program. So going to look through it, there was a handful of other real estate investors that were there with us. So Aaron and I made the executive decision to put in a offer fairly quickly because it was in decent shape, and we thought it would be in the best interest of
There's
everybody.
many offers, like within hours,
Minutes.
right? Yeah.
Minutes.
Yeah.
So, the seller ended up agreeing to, a purchase price of, $41,500. The original asking price was $35,000. So we came up, a little bit, but we felt it was in the best interest of the land bank, our community, our mission, everything of that nature.
Where are the funds coming from to purchase the property, Jess?
So it can come from 2 different sources. It could either come from our Land Bank Initiative
Mhm.
grant, or it could come from our City of Binghamton ARPA grant, one or the other. So just when we go to close, whichever funding is available at the time.
Yep, I think this goes going through it. I think it's really
It's-
nice
yeah.
opportunity. It's small house,
Small house.
It-
Mhm.
probably doesn't need to be, completely torn down and rebuilt, right? It's maybe in better shape than some of the others. So,
Would you use both? I'm just curious, not that you can't pick one or the other, but like if you just took half.
Yeah.
one, half, yeah.
Yeah, so we requested $2 million from HCR's Land Bank Initiative program. So hoping all is well with the application and we do get awarded, that would be my preference.
Yeah.
So if that funding comes in, then
Good.
to use
then
that.
the city ARPA funds
Yes.
remain to do a rehab.
Rehab,
Right.
full hard construction
Yeah.
costs, I'd really like to keep them separate if I can.
Yep. There's one property too, just for full disclosure, we're talking about, so there's a property next to it that needs to be addressed. And I understand that you're working with the city on that. It's privately owned, but it was a site of maybe a pretty significant fire. maybe some would say it could be rehabbed. I don't know. I'm not.
Was that owned by Saul too? Or no?
It's owned by the former owner of this property. So it's, yeah, it's a complicated matter. But I mean, I don't think the city has condemned it, although maybe they should. I'm not an expert.
You know,
Pretty bad.
you know what the percentage of damage is from the fire? I mean, just out of curiosity, I wouldn't expect you to know off the top of your
I
head.
think it's gutted on the mayor. I think it's
Got
like
it.
burned on the inside,
Yeah.
but if you were sort of drive by quickly, you might not quite notice that.
Yeah.
But there's a
So,
shell
Yeah,
that, there's no windows,
No,
I think.
but you can look in and it's like all, like
Yeah.
for
There's
some
a
reason, the
shell, but-
siding's like, okay, the vinyl
Yeah.
siding's okay, but you look in the windows, you're like, oh my gosh, that is like black in there. It's like
Yeah.
charred.
yeah.
It's a weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert on
Yeah.
on how things get condemned.
How long ago was the fire?
I don't know. I talked to John Westgate.
My
Okay,
nephew
okay.
is-
Did talk to John Westgate about it. He knows exactly the property I'm talking about.
It's on the road, just a couple houses from where you are, right?
Mhm.
What percentage do you think it is?
Over 50%.
You think it's 70 or no?
Close.
Right, because that's the threshold, right? Isn't it 70?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
I believe so,
I
so.
think 7.
I know Jess is working with, to your point, working with code and with the mayor's office to try to get
Some type of.
a resolution to that where we could, I think we sort of view that as critical to the redevelopment of
Yeah.
both.
I would
Yeah.
agree with that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if you're considering buying it versus it's 70% or more. Then it,
Yes,
there's a couple different ways you could approach it, I guess that's all I'm saying.
I'm with you on that. My personal opinion is I would be not excited about purchasing it from
Right.
the current owner.
Right.
Let's just say it that way. I think probably everybody here would agree with that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I was just curious, okay.
It's a good question.
That's-
Okay, any other questions about this?
I have no questions, but I'm still gonna abstain because I live on Tremont.
Okay.
State for the record, I had no idea you were pursuing this.
Yeah,
You didn't tell me.
We didn't.
We did not.
We didn't.
When we heard about it.
We recognized it might put
Yeah.
you in an odd spot and
Yeah.
did not mention it for that reason.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And I can verify that. There was no secret discussions between the board members and us about the property, so.
I'll make a motion for it. It's good for the
Thank you.
street, it's good for the city.
It is,
Yeah.
it is good for the street. Yep, thanks, Rich. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Wendy?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of resolution authorizing the acquisition of property from Urban Upstate, something REO LLC. We have any further discussion? We have motions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, card?
Yeah.
All right, that carries. Thank you. All right,
Comment though, that the owner, they purchased that like at 24, so like Andrew must have something, transfer.
he lost the properties.
They
Yeah.
foreclosed on them.
Yes.
Due to.
Mortgage, yeah,
It's a mortgage foreclosure.
They have like 15 other
Yeah.
cities.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are the
This
other,
is part of a mortgage foreclosure.
yes, are the other properties decent too? Or
Jess looked at that. It's a good question. Jess looked at that.
We-
We did
we-
get a list.
We looked at the list, they're large, like they're like 3, 4 huge,
units.
yeah, like huge
Okay.
properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was, what was it? This one was, I don't even think there was another single family. I think this was the only single family in
Commercial
receivership.
property somewhere.
There were a couple different, there was the list that the city obtained and of properties that they received as part of that settlement, and then there was the private one.
Yeah.
And even the one like 181 Hawley came off that other list.
That came off the
That-
city.
That, even that list, there was not
There was like-
much, I mean,
no.
there was some we looked at that was like, no, there's cracks and like, did this house is, actually, the city's already started undertaking a handful, because one's on my mother-in-law's street on Travis. It's already been demolished. I think there's like, they're.
Yeah.
Really, it's slim pickings.
There's two, to answer your question directly, there's two that came out. One was from the city settlement list. That was 181
Yeah.
Hawley that we know across from the school. And then the mortgage foreclosures, as
Yeah.
Wendy stated, from his financiers. This was the one that was viewed as doable off of that list, but we did look at them, I didn't, Jesse and Rob did.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, well, that brings us to the end, I think, of our regular business, correct?
Yep.
Is there any other old business that we need to cover?
Just a quick question,
Yeah.
when are the annual board member financial statements due? Is it April or is it? April
You might know.
April 15th?
Yes.
April 15th.
Can somebody Each year, somebody sends me the one from the year before that I can just update.
Yeah.
We can send that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have it in the county legislature office.
Yeah, if
I'll
you
ask
receive
Carol.
those in the mail, they should be coming
Mhm.
any day.
Any-
Yeah, they went out on the 15th. They should have gone out on March 15th, the
15th.
current version.
Yeah, the 14th, because the 15th was a Saturday. so you guys
Right,
mailed
there's
it.
also,
Alright, so they're in the mail.
yeah, there's also fillable PDF, which some prefer that, I prefer that, on the county's website. Jess, actually, if you would.
Yeah.
Rob, if you want to grab the fillable PDF and send a link directly to board members, and I find that to be easier. And I'll ask Karen Law to send your old one, if anybody needs their old one sent to them, let us know, we can scan and send it to you directly.
Is there any update on the acquisition of that second property, across from Enjoy? Is that done?
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's
Okay.
done.
It closed in early-ish
Yeah,
January,
it really did. But it was like I really wanted it to get done in 2024, but we just. No,
no,
so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna pair the asbestos abatement at that property with the 3 in the city. Get a better price on the bid package for the abatement.
Okay.
And then we'll take that property down to clean demo. Save a little bit of dollars that way.
so spring-ish, I mean, it's well, to the spring, I guess, but later this spring, maybe, a
Hoping.
couple months.
Yeah, maybe I'm shooting to shoot out a bid package for the demo, maybe in May, late June latest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. That'll be big news.
Good.
Excited about that.
Okay, any other old business, any new business?
Just one question.
Yeah,
You know, in order, right, with foreclosures almost being a thing of the past. In order to get our portfolio of properties. And just speaking like a personal situation, and this question's for Wendy. Will people who get foreclosed on, are they just gonna let the county really be their auctioneer?
Pretty much.
They are, cause I just went through that Tioga County. It was trying to purchase a piece of land in Tioga County, and the lawyer was like, no, just go buy it from the county, cause we're gonna get the money from the
right, I really
county.
thought about that.
So
one.
his point was, why should I just deal with you if the county's potentially gonna have
Right.
multiple bidders and let it be driven up, and then the proceeds just go?
So the question there for the owner would be, would you get more money out of it hiring a realtor to market it? Or would it be better to have the county do its level of marketing and have auction bidders
Yeah.
bid? I don't know what the answer to that is. But you're right, that, yeah, could happen, right?
Yeah, but if you're talking low. Income or low value properties, no realtor wants to spend time. Right.
Tell the municipality to go mow his lawn if he's not taking.
Yeah, right.
500 every other week.
Yeah,
I think it would be accurate to say to Tarek's point before, your point, but sort of got me thinking with the question about the former properties owned by a certain landlord in town. Those owners, the finance, the money behind them just wanted to move, like they were gonna spend 6 months trying to find $1,000 from some other buyer. They were trying to unload these and move on with their lives as quick as possible and try to get some of their money back. So that kind of makes sense. I mean, that was what the sellers told us, right? They were taking offers up at like 24 hours and then they were moving on. They weren't hanging out because they knew there wasn't money to be made here, really. They were just trying to move on with
Their
some of the costs,
$1.2 million that they put out.
which they did. I'm sure they did not do.
I think they must have come close.
You think? Yeah,
Absolutely.
interesting,
They put 18 of them on the market.
interesting. Yeah, okay. All right,
Sure that's what they came up with.
hopefully they were nicer than the Tremont. That Tremont was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay, any other new business? Rob, when's our next meeting?
April 15th.
April 15th. I can't wait. Same place here. Good job on the owl. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Wendy, you look
Yes,
like you're
please.
looking at the motion. Yeah. Do we have a second? Rich, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.